Welcome to Eco Talk, the latest podcast from the Carbon Zero Group. Okay, on today's podcast, we're going to talk road traders. It's a massive, massive issue here in the solar industry and in the renewable energy industry as a whole. So I'm here with Neil, our sales director. Neil's been in the industry an awful long time, just like me. We've got the grey hair to tell the stories. But we're talking road traders here on the Eco Talk podcast here today. Let's talk about warranty, because warranty is quite a complicated thing. And we'll start with solar panel warranty.
Yeah.
Because that's obviously very different to battery warranties. So let's talk us through some sort of standard industry sort of warranties and within the solar industry on a panel.
Okay, so commonly, it's evolved somewhat. The common warranty on a panel was a 10 to 12 year panel product warranty and a 25-year performance warranty, whereby the panel warrants to output in excess of 80% of its original capacity after a 25-year period. Which is quite a long time. I mean, we look at a solar installation generally when we're calculating projects out and things. It's a 25-year project. The fact of the matter is, panels are manufactured to last way, way, way beyond this. 40-year lifespan on a solar panel. There's panels floating around on satellites around the Earth that have been up there for a very, very, very long time, still doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. So, there's not really any question over that. Panel warranties have evolved somewhat over recent years. Some manufacturers are now pushing out to a sort of 15-year product warranty with an 84.6% warranty after, or 85% warranty after a 25-year period. And then there's the upper end of the market, which is a kind of 92+% warranty after a 25-year period. So still performing at 92% of its original capacity after a 25-year period. I mean, that is as near as, damn it, what it was doing on day one, in the grand scheme of things. So, there are differences in panels. There's also differences in panel prices and panel costs.
Yeah, 100%.
The panel market has evolved over the years. We've seen some incredible panel manufacturers cease to make panels, left us as a company scratching our head at times. But there's some good panels out there, and then there's some just average panels out there. And the panel is, obviously, we're installing, as an industry, we install solar panels, actually we install solar systems.
Yes, we do.
And you know as well as I do, Gareth, that the most important part of any solar array is your inverter.
Absolutely is.
The biggest point of failure.
Yeah.
The biggest risk points of failure. Typically, a sort of standard inverter comes with what used to be a sort of 5-year warranty.
It did.
It evolved out to more like a sort of common average of about 10 years. But you're installing a system that's a 25-year system, and panels that have got a 40-year lifespan plus. The inverter's got a failure point at 10 years. It's very important to identify this as a key point of any purchase. That inverter is the piece. It may seem slightly cheaper to put the inverter piece of the puzzle in earlier on. In actual fact, you're probably going to have to replace that. An awful lot of companies, especially the sort of rogue element of the industry, which is, has been abundant in this market, with it being such a sort of boom bust industry. The newbie guys, they probably just don't know this, but that inverter after 10 years, you can pretty much bet your bottom dollar there's going to be a.
And they're not telling people, are they? That's the thing. They're not telling people this is going to be a problem for you. And I think that's what again sets out it sets a company such as ourselves out from other people, is actually telling people the issues. Yeah. Telling people, like maintenance, and we'll go on to maintenance shortly, but maintenance is it's not a fit and forget technology, but I know there's, going back to the warranty aspect, I know some high-end panel manufacturers are offering a 25-year product and 25-year performance, which is massive.
Yeah.
But there's a very interesting thing here that we've come up against over the last a couple of times over the last sort of 15 years. We had a job in Manchester, and we used a Kaya Sierra panel from around 2011 period. And what was great about that panel back in the day was it was very dark in appearance, worked really well on dark roofs, slate roofs, etc. We had a customer who suffered some storm damage. One of the panels was damaged and they needed replacement, just one. Yeah. Luckily, we actually had an ex-demo we used at shows. Yep. Could you get another one? No. There isn't, and there is, and people think that manufacturers must keep a warehouse full of panels just in case somebody needs one. They don't.
No.
So
many variables.
There is, and so what we're going to create in the industry potentially is a bit of a ticking time bomb where a panel does fail.
Yep.
Getting a like for like replacement or exact replacement, you might struggle.
Yeah.
And I've heard of insurance claims where you can't get an exact panel. Yep. So they've ended up having to replace all the panels.
Yep.
Because they couldn't get one.
Because the system won't speak to it.
Exactly.
Yep.
And the other aspect to it as well is, depending on which batch of panels, the shade of the blue or whatever colour the panel is, or dark blue or black, can be a slightly different shade per batch.
Yep.
So you grab a panel from a different box, it's going to look different on the roof. And I know we know what it's like. We've had customers who are very, very specific on colour and appearance. Aesthetics is so important to some people.
Yep.
So there's a few issues around warranty. And again, I think the key thing that we've always worked with is using key suppliers, key manufacturers.
Yeah.
Because, like you've just said, it's 25 years is a long time, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
you've got in a perfect world.
Yeah, and
stuff breaks.
We've seen 50-year-old panel manufacturers go out of business.
Yeah.
But you've got to put a bet on. If you were going to put a bet on, would you bet that this solar panel company is going to be around in 25 years? So
to stand behind the warranty.
Well, to stand by the warranty.
Yeah.
So for us, what we do is we only work with 2 of the manufacturers in the world who've actually been in business longer than their warranties.
Yep.
That's one of the things we do for our consumers to protect them.
Yep.
Awful lot of people don't. They'll just use the cheapest panel to maximise margin.
Yep.
And I think consumers also need to be aware that we've, in a domestic situation, we give a 2-year installation warranty.
Yep.
After 2 years, we will happily do some work for you, but it's obviously paid.
Yep.
But if your panel it goes faulty in year 10, and if we're no longer around, or the company you use is no longer around, maybe the owner of the company retired, who knows what happened, but you've now got to liaise with potentially a manufacturer in China.
Yes. Which
is a headache on its own, and then you've got to pay someone to come out and test it. You've got to do all these different things. So it's not, when it comes to warranty in the industry, it's a bit of a minefield, isn't it?
It is.
It's a minefield for consumers.
It is. And
again, just making sure that the company the reputable company, which we've spoken about before, but a reputable manufacturer is massive. But let's jump on to inverter warranties. I know we touched on it just before, but especially extended warranties, because they're pretty good value, really. Extended warranties, and a massive peace of mind. So talk us through some of the options.
So one of the things that we lean, obviously this comes down to system design as well, but that future-proofing aspect is key. For example, we do an awful lot of work, and awful lot of it, probably the vast majority of what we do is with a technology called Solar Edge. One of the largest inverter manufacturer in the world. I think my facts are correct there.
It's not actually,
isn't it?
I was told this recently. It's actually Tesla.
Oh, right, because of the batteries.
Yeah, because they're cars.
So they've changed. That's changed very recently.
So I think Solar Edge are the biggest solar inverter manufacturer.
Yeah.
But I think, and I only recently learned this, Tesla are the biggest in the world because every single car has an inverter in it.
Yeah, of course.
So,
they sell a lot of cars. Yeah.
They sell a lot of cars.
So this industry changes.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a heartbeat, we see it all the time. But Solar Edge, I mean, like I said, we've been installing Solar Edge technology since about 2012, when they kind of really took the market. They came from their inception in 2006, FTSE listed, international conglomerate, serious operations, always the biggest stand at the shows, so on, the biggest scanner, they're a serious player in the industry. But their technology is brilliant. If you had a Solar Edge system, and you had a panel that didn't match, it wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
Because the solar edge would get you past that.
Work its magic.
Yeah. So the key here is that the solar edge is an optimized system. So you have your central inverter as you would normally have. It's a slightly different setup, but you have an optimizer on the back of every panel, which means that each panel operates independently from the next. So effectively, the system's working in parallel rather than in series. If ever there's an event or an issue on one of the panels, it doesn't affect the rest of the system. I.e., if you've had to replace a panel and it didn't match, it doesn't matter. If you've got 15 250 watt panels and one random 400 watt panel in the array, it's not going to affect anything. That system's still going to work and perform. One of the biggest keys here is that Solar Edge's inverters come with a standard 12-year warranty, which is above industry standard. Their optimizers come with a standard 25-year warranty, which is a very long warranty. But you can extend Solar Edge's warranty for a fairly small sum, depending on system size, to a 25-year warranty. Any company that's even prepared to give you a 25-year warranty on a piece of the equipment that is typically the failure points in an array, it kind of tells you an awful lot about the technology that they're installing or that they're manufacturing. From our experience, of course we see the odd issue, of course we see the odd failure. We do not live in a perfect world. Stuff can go wrong, but we see very low failure rates on this stuff. So those inverters and the warranties that are wrapped around those inverters, it kind of gives a very strong peace of mind. Then when you take into consideration some of that other technology that opens up, the visibility on a panel by panel basis over the system, so now you can see and identify if there's a warranty issue, if there's a problem, if you've got an underperforming panel, if there's a failure at some point, if there's an issue, if you've got a dirty panel, panels need cleaning.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if you've got dirty, it'll show up because you'll have underperformance showing on your portal, and you can see. So it kind of takes that whole most important piece of the solar array to a whole nother level. And then you've got the warranties wrapped around it to back it up, and it gives you a very strong position. At the end of the day, you've got large sums of money.
Absolutely.
Invested on your roof. If you had that invested in a hedge fund, you'd want to know that was performing.
Yeah, I do think it's crazy that people, they'll spend upwards of 20,000 and then not look after it after. If you spent 20,000 on a car and you needed it to get to work every day, you would
check the brakes.
You'd check the brakes. You would get it serviced and MOT'd. Yep. I find it crazy that that people will spend that money on a solar system and literally not touch it for 10 years until it breaks down.
Unfortunately, solar is not an unfair and forget product.
No, it's not, and that's something we're finding. You're going back to the rogues and the cowboys and the newbies. That message isn't getting to the consumer and to business owners that you need. And what we are finding interesting now is, especially in the commercial sector, is insurance companies are actually asking for maintenance schedules and certifications to make sure that equipment on the roof has been looked after.
Yeah, and
from a fire safety.
Fire safety is huge.
It's something it's something I think we're going to talk about on another podcast specifically around fire safety. It's a massive topic, and we want to bring we're going to bring Solar Edge into one of these podcasts in the future, and Tesla and get their insight on the industries. But one thing that is always been a big issue in the solar industry is shading, isn't it, Neil?
Yeah, absolutely.
Shading's a massive problem, and it's overlooked so much by installers. And we've seen this over the last 15 years, haven't we?
This stems back to that whole kind of rogue approach to selling solar. It's a fit and forget product. What they'll negate to tell you the sort of pitfalls of installing certain types of technology. Certain types of technology in certain environments are flawed. What a lot of people don't realize, if you have an underperforming panel in a string system, the whole system or the whole string can only operate at the lowest performing panel. If it's not knocked out by shadowing, in which case it'll knock the whole string out. So shading's huge.
It's massive. Yeah. And the thing is, this is where, from a consumer angle, you don't really know you've got a problem until it comes to the 12-month period.
Yeah.
And that's 12 months for that installer you've invested in to disappear and take your money.
Yeah.
And because whenever we survey and we quote for solar, we have to give you expected annual generation output for your system. based on shading, based on all different factors.
Orientation,
absolutely, yeah. And, we have to give you those numbers, but if we're overinflating them, you're not going to know it's overinflated until your clock's up to that 12-month installation birthday.
Yeah.
And then you can go, actually, it's generated nowhere near what they were going to say. And then you pick up the phone, but actually they disappeared. Or
there has to be someone to shout at that point. Yeah, exactly that.
And we've don't get me wrong, it could be that there's been an installation error from the start.
Yeah.
But the problem is with an old string system, you don't know.
You've got no visibility over that.
You got no visibility.
One of your strings could be operating at 80% and you would not know, because all you can see is your system is generating.
Yes.
But without the sort of knowledge of actually how this stuff works, what it's supposed to be doing at any given moment in time, you're not going to know that. And
because you're new to solar as a customer, you don't know how much it's supposed to be generating. You don't know if that's good or bad, or whether it's average or
indifferent.
You don't know. This is the thing, and that obviously one of the reasons why we massively promote and advocate for Solar Edge and
mitigate so many issues.
Yeah, and the whole shading issue, it's massive, and the amount of times I've seen, and I'm sure you still see, people getting quoted for systems where they've got 10 panels on one roof, 2 on another.
Yeah.
And they're using a string system. It's just not going to work. Yeah. It's not going to. Well, it's going to work, but it's not going to do what they say it's going to do.
No,
I guarantee it, because
one's dragging the other down.
Exactly. So there's a massive thing around shading in the solar industry. Again, it comes back to that reputable customer, that reputable.
I think one big issue here is, and part of this is that an awful lot of things will look very attractive when they're cheap, and I think people have to be mindful, and this comes down to due diligence, is that buy cheap, buy twice, and things appearing cheap on a quote, that really is a warning sign.
100%.
We see adverts all over the social media at the moment, solar and battery for 6,000 quid, and you just know that the technology that is being talked about, that's an off-the-shelf solution. It's generalized technology, typically really low end of the market tech with really low warranties. Then you're coupling that with the fact that the company installed it don't really care. No, they just want to install some solar panels, and the kind of price points they're talking, the margins not really there to operate a reasonable or sizable organization. And they're just not going to be around. So number one, they're going to install really low-grade technology. 2, they're not going to design the system very well in the first place, and they're probably going to put a 10-panel and a 2-panel on a highly shaded roof, and so on. They're going to put it in batteries in lofts and all sorts of situations, which has its own. There's a whole other conversation around that kind of stuff. But then in 2 years' time, when you realise that the numbers that they fed you in the first place, as far as generational expectations and stuff like that, don't materialise, but they've disappeared, and now you've got no comeback on it.
Yep, and it's it's a huge problem, and it's something we've been championing for a long time around that, and maintenance. It's not fit and forget, is it? No. It's not fit and forget technology, and people are, I do find it crazy how people spend all that money and won't even have it checked electrically for safety every year.
Exactly. Fixings.
Yeah, things move. If you imagine the wind passing over your solar system, day in, day out, hour by hour, and things can loose and things can get loose.
Those panels take the weather.
Absolutely, and
protect your roof, but they take the weather.
Yeah, but also if you've got a young family and small children in the gardens and things, it's imperative that you need your systems checked and looked after, and we've obviously just invested in our new solar panel cleaning van. Yeah, because we're trying to help change the industry, because people need to know that it's not fit and forget. You need to look after it, and there is an ongoing cost to owning solar panels, because if it's going to save you £2,000 to £3,000 a year in a domestic situation, which is possible with a battery, why wouldn't you protect your investment?
Yeah,
and have it inspected annually and cleaned, the panels cleaned to make sure they're free from dirt and bird poo and whatever else, and lichens and moss. It's
general particulate buildup.
Yeah, and some homes are, if you live near the sea, the sea spray. Yep. If your windows are dirty, your solar panel's going to be dirty. And people seem to think that, and again, I'm sure you've come across this from a sales side, is it's got a self-cleaning glass solar panels. Yeah. It's the biggest one, isn't it? Yeah. Self-cleaning glass.
Your windows are self-cleaning glass too, but they still get
exactly.
dirty.
Who's all those people who bought conservatories over the last 30 years got self-cleaning glass. Yeah. What do you have to do? Clean the glass.
Clean the glass. Yeah.
It just doesn't work. It's things like this. Unfortunately, people are being duped into, when they're buying systems and.
It's a fit and forget product. It's self-cleaning glass. You don't have to take care of it. You need to keep the panels clean.
Yeah.
At the first point, we generally recommend an annual clean around about March time, just before that sort of major summer uplift. If you're in a particularly dirty environment, or you might be in a sandy environment, or you might be sort of in rural area and there's lots of big tractors, spray muck off the road, and there's so many scenarios that we can list. Seagulls are a huge issue for making mucker panels. But you need to get them cleaned. If you're in a dirty environment, get them cleaned twice a year. March and June, while you're capitalising on that sort of high-profile sort of generation from the solar. You want the panels at maximum performance. But equally, if you've got an older string system in, classic story. I went to see a farmer. He had an existing 10 kilowatt system, and he had an existing 20 kilowatt system. They were both string. And he says, it's funny, my 10 kilowatt system outputs more power than my 20 kilowatt system. Well, that is funny.
It is.
Are they both pointing in the same direction? Oh, yeah, they're pointing in the same direction. Here's one whole string on the 20 kilowatt system, funny enough, wasn't working. Absolutely covered in muck. Hadn't cleaned it, fitted it, forgot about it, expected it to just carry on performing as normal. The system was on a tariff.
Wow.
So he'd missed out on tariff for half his system generation, at least, because the drag down effect, for 20 kilowatts of solar, which at the time was not going to have been a cheap investment. You're probably talking upwards of 30,000 at the time, maybe even 40,000, because it was early days of the tariff. It was expensive then to install solar. Obviously, the industry's changed, panel costs have come down. Classic fit and forget scenario, but it just cost him. Is it the investment should have paid him dividends, serious money over time, as we all know, because it was all of that tax-free payments with the feed-in tariffs back then, so he's missed out on all of that. And that was because number one, he's probably sold a fit and forget product. Two, he didn't check it. He didn't see to see if it was still working. We had another scenario very recently whereby solar was installed and it was in a shed, the inverters. And it was a hot day.
Yes, I remember that one. Yeah,
the company wasn't sure if their solar array was working properly, so we went up to have a look and just check and just see what was going on for them. And it turns out that the system was basically operating at 50%. It was 100 kilowatts of solar. Again, a huge level of investment. The system's operating at 50%. It's doing half what it's supposed to be doing.
Shocking.
Yeah. We opened the doors to the shed that the inverters were in, and the heat hit us in the face.
Yeah.
So the inverters, the inverters didn't have the cool air around them that they need to operate efficiently. They were in an inefficient operational state because they were just so hot. As soon as we opened the doors, the heat cooled down, the airflow started running, and the system generation went up. And just simple stuff that people don't get told, they're not made aware of, and it's forgotten about. And okay, it might be 10 years ago and somebody else sanctioned the installation.
Yeah.
But solar needs checking, especially a string system, because you haven't got that visibility. No. There's an awful lot. I mean, string systems were fitted, across the industry by many installers as standard. I mean, it was the only way to install at one point. The old SMA Sonny Boys when we were back in 2010, 11, 12.
Yeah.
Very, very popular inverter. Good quality bit of kit, but it was a string system, so it needs checking. I guess the word to the wise here is, if you've got solar installed on the roof, whether it's last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, who installed that? did they do a proper job? Has it been done right? Is it performing correctly? You know, there is call to get that checked, and you know, there's measures that can be done to correct issues and things like that. And you know, if you've got a reputable company nearby, you know, reach out to them. You know, get that second opinion on the system. Is this doing what it's supposed to be doing? Was it designed right in the first place?
Exactly.
Is there scope for more?
Yeah.
Because at the minute, I mean, solar is, and every property should have it kind of product. We've hit that tipping point in the market, cost of power versus the cost of the systems. We've got very, very, very quick return of investment periods. It's a very attractive proposition right now.
It is. I mean, I think it's probably one of the cheapest it's been ever right now.
Yeah, it is.
You know, we're currently seeing a bit of a crash in panel prices due to overstocking issues globally.
Yeah.
You know, system installations have crashed. It is really
Costs
a good time.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's a fantastic time to look at solar.
Yeah.
It's you know, one of the best times we've seen from a return on investment.
It's certainly a sweet spot.
Yeah, and you know, if you've got solar already, whether you've got enough solar, it's you know, it's such an interesting topic on that side, and one thing we see a lot of isn't it, Neil? You know, because obviously, I personally don't go out to see clients as much nowadays than I did years ago. Obviously, you're at the forefront of seeing people at the coalface and going to meet business owners and things like that, going to, you know, and assess their properties for solar. I know we've spoke about it before, is off the shelf solutions. We see it all the time, don't we?
Yeah. The company unnamed, they've identified the cheapest bit of kit that they can get their hands on with the highest profit margin. They've got a package. It's 10 panels. It's the next battery, 5 point something kilowatts or 9 something kilowatts or 7, whatever it might be, and that's what they sell, and that's what everybody's having. And the one size does not fit all.
It doesn't. You know, people's homes a bit, unless you've got two homes side by side. But even then, you might have two identical homes. Doesn't mean the usage profile's the same.
Family number one and family number two.
Exactly. You've got, you know.
Family number one's got 3 kids and 6 Xboxes.
Exactly, yeah.
Family number two's got an air source heat pump, hot tub, and an electric vehicle.
Exactly.
Two completely different power profiles.
There's so many different, and we are seeing an awful lot, aren't we? You know, people just getting quoted a standard system, everyone, you know, and it's not right. It's, you know, a really important part of solar is designing a system to suit the exact needs of that property, and it's a consultative...
investigative.
Yeah, it is. I try and avoid the word bespoke, because I think a lot of people, you know, assume bespoke comes with costly, and it's you know, but it's understanding the needs and what your power needs, and understanding your power profile, and design a system to suit. And I think that's
appropriate measures.
Yeah, and I think that only comes when you've got a company who's got experience in understanding your energy profile and needs. And and again, it comes back to that sort of newbie road trader cowboys. It's just trying to sell you whatever is the right for the company.
They just want to sell you some solar.
They just want to sell you some stuff, don't they? You know, and make some money.
There's so much of that going on right now.
You know, we get a lot of blinded by science, don't we? A lot of salespeople trying to blind consumers with science, don't we?
I came across a quote the other day. Standard 3-bedroom residential house. I think the gentleman lived there on his own or with his wife, and he'd been quoted 21 solar panels. Wow. You know, 8 point something kilowatts. There was no hot tub, there was no electric vehicle, there was no air source heat pump. It was just standard consumption, and he'd been quoted 21 panels, 8 kilowatts. The average household is not hitting an 8 kilowatt demand at midday in a sunny day and through summer. As a general rule of thumb, people's average demand is much, much, much lower than that. It's a smaller number over a period of time. You tend not to hit big demand spikes. So by putting big solar generation capacity on a roof, you're just overproducing power and shipping all that power off the grid. And as much as there are good export rates around these days, you know, some of the sort of major power providers have increased and incentivized solar and got some really smart packages for, you know, homeowners with solar and stuff that you can kind of really capitalize on. As much as they've done that, the return of investment and the main and principal benefit in installing solar is in the power savings. It's in what you're no longer having to pay for power. That's where biggest key part, isn't it? It always will be. You know, they're never going to over incentivize the export to grid. It doesn't make sense because they've still got to sell it. They've still got to ratify the cost of power. So you're never going to get more than the value of the power. So system design, it's imperative, and there's so many people who will just pull the wool over the eyes. You know, what's making that demand? Where's that demand coming from? Understanding that is key. So if someone comes and just says, "Oh, you're using 8,000 kilowatt hours of power, you need to put this many solar panels on that's going to generate 8,000 kilowatts of power," that's not how this works. There's a generational curve with solar, and it follows the seasons.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, once those clocks have moved in the early part of the year, and once they move again at the end of the part of the year, that's from a really, really simple standpoint. There's your windows. For when it's
a bell curve, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly that.
Bell curve.
Exactly that. So just understanding that solar is going to do, it's a technology. It produces power from daylight and solar irradiation. That's not going to solve, that technology without the addition of batteries. Not going to solve nighttime issues. It's not going to solve wintertime issues. Unfortunately, there's an awful lot of people out there running around who don't explain this piece of the puzzle and how it actually works, and setting expectations correctly in the first place so you can make an informed and ratified decision. So
we want to thank everyone for joining us, listening and watching in. Tune in, like and follow for more content, and we'll see you for the next episode of Eco Talk.